Testing one, two, one, two. Okay, I've said it. This is the Ball Brother Chronicles. I'm not gonna say this is the new setup, but I'm hoping to really, make a few changes eventually. Anyway, there's not much to really say about the Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball, and LiAngelo Ball injuries. It's very, very easy to really decipher. While really going on about looking for ways to connect the dots and so much, I already figured something out. The Ball brothers' injuries is very, very easy to really figure out if you really just focus on the history, which is what I'm actually going to put much on because I just want to focus on the topic at hand, which is the question of why do they get injuries, or why are they injury prone, or why do they have a tendency to be injury. Let's really play a hypothetical, shall we? Think about a family medical history, right? If you, as a person, has a family member that has a specific type of injury, the likelihood of you going getting that injury can be based on that, but there's no guarantee that you're gonna be injured the same way. The same goes for a person that's giving birth to a kid of a specific skin color or something, and just because the parents look a specific way does not mean the child have the specific features the same as the parent. It's basic genetics. But when it comes to athletics, as a person myself who has played many sports, I've played basketball on a recreational level, but sports I've played on a specifically large level like football, hockey, baseball recreationally, but I've said it. I played football, hockey, track, even. I've even done soccer, which you all know. And all of these sports I played I may played some of it on a more competitive level. Football I did it on a competitive level. And I'll tell you, football is not it's freaking easy. Though I was a fucking O line. I didn't. All I know is just block and protect the quarterback. Don't let them get sacked. That's it. That was my fucking job. But in soccer, my job's to protect the goal. Similar shit. Why am I bringing this up? You ever notice that the Ball brothers, whenever they play a specific position, the position coincides to the injury? But injuries are in an inevitable situation. For example, I've been injured before, multiple times. It's not new. The problem is that the Ball brothers specialize in one sport. I didn't specialize in one sport. I started with ice hockey, and then I did soccer, and then I did football, then wrestling, then I did track. So basically, I played four sports throughout my high school career. In university, I did specialize in only one sport because there wasn't that much variation, especially when you have to focus on studies, you have to do all that kind of things, study halls, reading week, you have to focus on your classes. So in university, I found it hard to really get into extracurricular activities than I did in high school because in high school I had a lot of free time. Why am I saying this? Well, the reason is when you specialize in a sport, your chances of getting injured is about between 80% rises to between 80% or 100 and something percent. And due to that factor, the Ball brothers' likelihood of getting injured intensifies. It doesn't matter if LaMelo played in Australia, he came back to the NBA, he did that. They all specialize in the same sport. They all played AAU basketball. They all played the same sport. They didn't be like, okay, let's try to train you in football so that you'll be able to know how to change direction. Maybe let's train you. Look at Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards played basketball, football. Do you see him getting injured? The Ball brothers played one sport, and that's basketball. And they've been training for that one sport. So that's all they know. So they don't actually have transferable skills in the sport. Like for me, for example, I can say in football, being able to be aware of your opponent and knowing what they're about to do is one of the things I learned. Being able to understand your opponent's move and be able to counter, especially with wrestling too, all the other sports helps. Being able to beat your defender also is one of the things with wrestling and track. These things matter. When I look at the Ball brothers, I don't see that. Where's the defense? Where's the where's the ability to actually transfer skills? Where's the transferable skills? Where's the thing? Because when you specialize in one sport, the your chances of injury reduces. Maybe not by a large margin because again, I've said it, injury is an inevitable situation. I've seen my fair share of injuries, had a waist injury before when I was younger. At the age of 12, I've I've literally had a knee injury as a teenager. It's not it's nothing new. Even if and that's not specializing in one sport by the way. Because like I said, I played four sports. Ice hockey, football, soccer, and wrestling. That's it. Regardless of how it is, injuries is inevitable. But it's about how do you prevent injuries from being to the point that you are being gonna be called injury prone. Now let's discuss each ball brother by a second. Lonzo Ball, rookie season injured, knee injury, Achilles all kind of injuries that even I cannot keep track of. 2018-2019 injuries, 2019-2020 injuries, 2020-21 injuries, 2021-2022 injuries, and now 2022-2023. We don't even know whether he's gonna come back. Maybe injuries again. 2023. We don't even know. The point is, the injuries pile up. Jello, similar thing. And Jello's on is a is slightly different because the problem is I always blame LeVar because I think it's his fault. As a father, you have to understand that when your kids are playing specific sports, you have to try to not be too involved in a way that they're gonna get injured. You have to know how to prioritize their safety. That's basically my point. They have to prioritize their safety. Think about it. How is your kid playing a game on a busted knee just to test his heart? What? Nobody cares about. See, listen. I understand that you have to put your team first and everything. But when your injury is severe, like an ankle injury, why am I playing? I don't play. And even if I'm gonna play limited minutes because why the hell am I playing a kid that's injured? And then his injury is intensified to the point that he can barely last the game. So the coach has no option but to DMP the player and be like, hey, you're not gonna play. You're on DMP. And LaMelo, the star of the show, look what's happening with him. Ankle injury. His fans are calling him injury prone. And I'm not talking his fan base, I'm talking about his team's fans. Injury prone. Interesting how the youngest all star since Kobe Bryant, the rookie of the year, the rookie leader in points, assists, and steals, is injury prone. But it's not. I don't blame them. I blame the way they're raised. I blame the way their fathers trained them. I blame the way that they specialize in specific sport. And that problem is why they're injured. I did wanted to start my doing my first live before this, but I decided that in order to honor a request that a brother actually made, I really wanted to do this, be a man of my word, and really do that. You know, it would not be making sense if I actually make a promise and not fulfill that. Like that would not look good on my part. I get disappointed when I don't fulfill a promise. Like it pisses me off. So that in its own, you should know. The thing is, when you are playing a sport, you have to learn to prioritize safety, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't be competitive. It's okay to be competitive. I know what it's like to lose. I've seen it myself. I've been around winning, I've been around losing. It's not until I got to university that I actually felt the taste of victory before. Because in high school, I've dealt with it. But why am I bringing this up? Is because a lot of times you have to learn to take L's, even if you're fam. Like it's cool, you got a record, you got the championship, but what did that end up doing? One of your kid can't make it to the NBA because his skills doesn't match his health. Like health wise, he just can't last. And I'm a preface this to this and say like the Bobblers are great skill wise. I'm I love Lamelo. In my 2020 class, I've always say I love Lamelo, I love Anthony Edwards, I love Tyrese. I know people always shit on the kid and because of he plays similar to Lamelo, but let me be real, Tyrese is a good talent. I know a lot of people would hate him, but I just like Tyrese Halliburton. I like his game. I like the way he plays. I think he's gonna be a special player, but I don't think he's better than Lamelo. I'm sorry, it's just my bias. But the only guy that I'll say that is on par with Lamelo is Anthony Edwards. But aside from that, that's the only point I have for that. But the injury section of this Barber situation is not. We should not focus on why were they injured. A lot of things I've already figured out is that a lot of it bases on the fact of why are they getting injured. At the end of at the end of the video, in the description, I'll put a link to three articles that I look up. You guys can read it for yourself and understand how specializing in sports actually relates with increases of injuries, so that you guys can get the idea of what I was talking about. Because I think that's the real reason why they always get hurt. It's not because of they were skilled or they always get injured. It's because LeVar specialized these boys to play on one sport that they don't know any other sport. They don't know what it takes. Look, Allen Iverson played football and basketball. It helped his career. Deion Sanders played two sports. He played in he's the first player in history to play to be an NFL Hall of Famer and an MLB Hall of Famer. And he played two sports. Like imagine being the guy that's playing on the Super Bowl and the World Series in the same year. Like that is amazing. So I'll say it like this. The only thing the Ball brothers can do right now is just work on getting better in terms of health. And if I'm Lonzo, I don't train my daughter the way my dad trained me. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't train your daughter to be specializing in one sport and getting hurt. No. Focus on multiple. That's how you get skills. Being like being playing hockey taught me how to be agile, how to be able to change direction, how to be able to be aware on defense, how to be able to see the field. When I got to play football, I was able to understand how to defend How to be aware on the field, and how to position yourself, what your position is like. Because football training is hard. I'll tell you that. As a person who's been through it, so I'll say it. It's not super easy, but if you wanna actually get in, I think a lot of you guys should focus on prioritizing health in many cases. Not saying you shouldn't be athletic or be competitive. I'm a competitive person. Like that's just my nature. I'm a competitive person. I like to compete. So I understand where they're coming from, but you have to understand prioritizing one sport would never get you to be healthy. It'll only get you to be more injured. And I think by my reasoning of it is that when you're focused on one concept, you would always be stuck. Like, remember, I'll end it with this: insanity means doing the same shit over and over and expecting the same result. Thank you very much.